She worked for him for 10 years, loyal, quiet, invisible. But one morning, in front of his entire staff, the billionaire fired her and humiliated her in front of everyone. No one expected what happened next. Not even him. Because what that maid said before walking out of those golden doors didn't just change his life. It changed everyone's. Before we get into the details, don't forget to share where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories. It was supposed to be an ordinary Monday morning in the grand marble halls of the Westbridge estate, home of billionaire Jonathan Cross, a man known for his business brilliance and his icy heart. For 7 years, Maria Lopez had worked there. Quiet, polite, always smiling. She cleaned the same crystal chandeliers, polished the same golden banisters, and served breakfast to a man who barely remembered her name. But today was different. Jonathan's investors had arrived early for a high-stakes meeting. The mansion buzzed with tension. And then, right as he was about to present, Maria accidentally spilled a tray of coffee across the polished floor, narrowly missing the Italian suits of his guests. The room went silent. Jonathan's face turned red with fury. "You're fired," he shouted, his voice echoing off the marble. Everyone froze. Maria stood there trembling, her hands still shaking. "I said you're fired," he repeated. "Pack your things and go. I won't tolerate carelessness in my house." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't move. Instead, Maria looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. And then, in a voice so calm it silenced even the whispers of the staff, she said something no one expected. "Sir," she began softly, "you don't remember me, do you?" Jonathan frowned. "Should I?" She smiled sadly. "5 years ago, when your wife was in the hospital, I was the nurse who sat beside her every night. She told me not to leave you, no matter how hard you made it. She said you were a good man once, and you'd find your way back." The room fell silent again. The billionaire's confident mask began to crack. Maria took off her apron and placed it gently on the table. "I stayed because I made her a promise. But maybe this is how I finally keep it." And as she turned to walk out, Jonathan whispered her name, remembering at last. But what he did next changed both of their lives forever. The crystal chandeliers sparkled above the grand ballroom of Harrison Manor, where billionaire William Harrison was hosting his annual charity gala, an event dripping with wealth, pride, and appearances. At the far corner of the room stood Grace Mbatha, the maid who had served the Harrison family faithfully for nearly 10 years. Known for her warm smile, gentle heart, and quiet grace, she often went unnoticed, except when something went wrong. And that night, something did. As Mr. Harrison prepared to make his speech before hundreds of guests, Grace tripped over an electric cable. A tray of expensive champagne crashed to the floor. The room fell silent. Every head turned. William's voice boomed across the marble floor. "Grace, look what you've done." In front of everyone. Her hands trembled as she knelt to clean the mess. "I'm so sorry, sir," she whispered. "Sorry," he snapped. "You've embarrassed me in front of investors. You're fired." Right now, gasps filled the room. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Grace rose slowly, her eyes glistening but steady. "Mr. Harrison," she said softly, "I've served this house since your wife was alive. I watched your children take their first steps. I cleaned up their tears when they missed her. I didn't work here for the paycheck. I stayed because this was once a home filled with love." The billionaire froze. He wasn't used to being spoken to like that. Grace took a breath, her voice trembling but strong. "You see, sir, when your wife was ill, she made me promise to remind you. Money can rebuild a mansion, but not a heart. You've built an empire, but somewhere along the way, you lost the man she loved." A murmur swept through the guests. William's face softened, his eyes darting away. Grace took off her apron and folded it neatly on the silver tray. "I forgive you," she whispered, because that's what she would have wanted. Then she turned toward the door. But before she could take another step, a familiar little voice echoed from the staircase. William's young daughter, clutching a framed photograph. "Daddy," she said, "Mommy said Grace was part of our family. Why are you sending her away?" The entire room went silent again. William's lips parted, but no words came out. Grace turned back, tears welling in her eyes. And what William said next would change everything. Grace turned toward the mansion's doors, her heart heavy, her eyes wet. She had served the Harrisons for a decade, but tonight, her time there seemed to end in front of hundreds of staring eyes. Behind her, silence hung in the air. No one dared to speak, until a little voice broke through the tension. The daughter said softly, "Daddy, why are you sending Grace away?" "Mommy said she's family." The billionaire froze. The word struck him like lightning. Mommy said she's family. For the first time in years, William Harrison felt something stir deep inside him. Something he hadn't felt since his wife's death. He looked down at his daughter, the same green eyes as his late wife staring up at him. And suddenly, the noise of the gala faded away. He saw Grace's trembling hands, her tired eyes, her heart that had served, not for money, but out of love. But pride is a powerful thing. He opened his mouth, ready to call her back, but before he could speak, Grace stepped outside into the pouring rain. Rain sound effect, slow piano music swells. She walked down the long driveway, her shoes soaked, her hands clutching her apron. And then a black limousine pulled up beside her. The window rolled down slowly, and the man inside wasn't anyone she expected. He looked at her with a warm smile. "Grace Mbatha," he said, "I've been looking for you for a long time." Her eyes widened. "Do I know you?" He smiled again, holding out a familiar photograph, one that made her gasp. And at that moment, Grace realized this stranger knew the secret she had kept hidden all these years, the one that could change the Harrison family forever. Grace stood frozen beside the limousine, rain dripping from her hair. The stranger inside looked calm, his eyes kind, but mysterious. "Do I know you, sir?" "Not yet, but you knew my mother. Her name was Evelyn Harrison." Grace gasped. Evelyn, Mr. Harrison's late wife. The woman she had cared for through her final days. Grace, whispering her, "Evelyn's son." The man nodded slowly. "I'm her son," he said, "but not his." Soft thunder rumbles in the background. Grace's eyes widened. "What are you saying?" He handed her the photograph. It was a faded picture of Evelyn holding a baby, Grace standing beside her, much younger, smiling proudly. Grace's breath caught in her throat. That day, she remembered it well, but she never knew the child's secret. "My mother left a letter," he said quietly. "It was meant for you and for William. She said one day the truth would come home." Back inside, William couldn't shake the look on his daughter's face or the echo of Grace's words. He ran to the window just in time to see the limousine drive away into the night. He grabbed his coat, his voice shaking. "Grace, wait." But she was gone. "You've carried this family's pain long enough, Grace. It's time you read what she left behind." Grace hesitated, the envelope sealed with Evelyn's handwriting. Her fingers brushed the paper, but before she could open it, the limo screeched to a halt. Headlights flashed across the windshield. A dark SUV blocked the road. The stranger's face turned pale. "He wasn't supposed to find us this soon," he whispered. Grace's heart pounded. Who wasn't? He looked at her, fear in his eyes. "Your past, Grace. The one you've been running from." And what Grace saw when the door opened would change everything. The black SUV blocked the road. Grace's hands shook as she clutched the sealed letter. Evelyn Harrison's final words. The stranger's voice trembled. "Stay in the car, Grace. Please." He stepped out into the rain. Two men approached from the SUV, one tall, one silent. Grace, whispering, asked, "Who are they?" The stranger didn't answer. But when the tall man spoke, his voice was chillingly familiar. "You've gone far enough, Daniel." It was William Harrison, the billionaire himself, soaked, furious, desperate. "Give me that letter." Grace, firmly, "Sir, this belongs to Evelyn. She wanted you both to know the truth." William's voice broke. "I already know the truth, or at least I thought I did." Thunder cracks. The stranger, Daniel, turns back toward him. "Then read it, William. It's time." Grace opens the envelope slowly. A single folded page slips out, ink slightly smudged by tears long dried. "To my beloved William, and to the woman who stood by us when no one else would. If you're reading this, then I am gone. but I need you both to know the truth about Daniel and why I kept him hidden." William's jaw tightened. "Hidden?" Grace looked up. "Sir, she says Daniel is your—" Sudden lightning flash. The paper rips from her hand, snatched by the wind. The letter flies into the darkness. Grace gasps. Daniel runs after it. But before he reaches it, one of William's guards steps in front of him. "Sir, there's something you need to see." He hands William a phone. A video plays, Evelyn, weak but smiling in a hospital bed. "William, if you're watching this, it means Grace kept her promise. Be kind to her, and please protect Daniel. What's coming after him isn't finished." William looks up, confused and afraid. "Protect him from who?" And before Grace could answer, the roar of another engine filled the air, headlights blinding, tires screeching to a stop just behind them. The driver stepped out, and when Grace saw who it was, she whispered only one word. "No, it can't be you." The truth about Daniel, and who had been watching them all along, would change everything. Grace shielded her eyes from the blinding lights. The car door creaked open, and out stepped a figure none of them expected to see. The wind whipped the reins sideways as the stranger walked forward, tall, determined, and carrying an umbrella that shimmered under the lightning. Grace, whispering, "It can't be you. I saw you buried." Daniel froze. William took a step back, his breath catching. The woman lowered her umbrella. Her face was pale, but unmistakable. It was Evelyn Harrison. Gasps filled the night air. William staggered forward. "Evelyn? But how?" She smiled weakly. "There's no time to explain. I wasn't supposed to return yet." "Then why now?" said Grace. Evelyn's eyes turned toward Daniel. "Because the people who took me have found him." William's voice trembled. "The people who took you? Evelyn, what are you talking about?" She reached into her coat and pulled out a small flash drive, pressing it into Grace's shaking hand. "Everything you need to know is on this. If something happens to me again, promise me you'll protect him. And the little girl." Grace's heart stopped. "His daughter?" Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "Our daughter." Before another word could be spoken, a sharp crack echoed through the rain, glass shattering, tires screeching, and then a blinding flash of light. The screen goes black. A child's voice cries out, "Daddy!" Silence. Low and urgent, and when the smoke cleared, one of them was gone. When the smoke cleared, Grace found herself waking up in a hospital room. Her head ached, her hands trembled, and the flash drive Evelyn had given her lay safely on the nightstand. Across the room, little Emma Harrison, William's daughter, slept in a chair, clutching Grace's torn apron like a blanket. Grace whispered, "She's safe, thank God." The door opened. William stepped in, his arm bandaged, eyes heavy with regret. William said, softly, "Evelyn's gone again. We searched all night." Grace looked down, heart pounding. Then the only thing left is her message. A video file loaded. Evelyn appeared on screen, alive, fearful, speaking quickly. "If you're watching this, they found me again. Harbalite wasn't a charity, it was a cover. William, your company's investors used our foundation to move children across borders. Daniel wasn't one of them. He escaped them." Grace gasped. William's face went pale. "You thought you built an empire on generosity," Evelyn continued, "but they built it on secrets. Find the ledgers. Protect Daniel and Emma. And Grace, forgive him." The screen flickers, cuts to static. Grace, whispering she knew everything. William clenched his fists. "Then I have to make it right." He turned toward the door, but before he could move, the monitor beside Grace beeped. A message appeared on the laptop screen. "Stop digging, or next time, we take the child." Grace's breath caught. She slammed the laptop shut. At that very moment, the lights flickered. Outside, footsteps echoed down the hospital hallway, slow, deliberate. Emma stirred. "Miss Grace, someone's coming." Grace reached for the door handle, whispering, "Stay behind me, sweetheart." He spoke, voice low, calm, chilling. "It's time to finish what Evelyn started." And when that door opened, Grace would finally discover who had been controlling everything. From the mansion to the night she was fired. Grace stood frozen, one arm shielding little Emma. The door swung open, and the man in the shadow finally stepped inside. He wasn't a stranger. Grace, whispering Daniel. He looked different, tired, bruised, but unmistakable. Daniel, horse, they found me first. I had to lead them away. Who's they? Grace said. He hesitated, glancing toward the flickering ceiling light. The men who funded Harbalite. But it's worse, Grace. They weren't just moving money. They were moving names. William asked, names? What name? Every child they saved through the foundation had their identity changed, including me. Evelyn hid me to keep me safe, but someone on the inside sold the records. He opens his coat and pulls out a worn notebook, Evelyn's ledger. Grace flipped through the pages. Each line held a child's new name, and beside one entry, written in Evelyn's delicate handwriting, was a single note. The key is the song. Grace asked the song. What song? Little Emma spoke softly from behind her. Mommy's lullaby. She used to sing it when Daddy came home late. Grace turned to William. Do you remember it? He nodded slowly, humming the tune. The melody echoed through the room, and suddenly, the laptop on the table flickered back to life. A hidden file appeared, Evelyn and her score final. Grace clicked it open. Evelyn's recorded voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, it means you've found the song. William, Daniel, Grace, everything leads back to the manor's north wing. The wall behind the painting of the sunrise. Static bursts across the screen, cutting her off. Then a new message appeared, typed, not recorded. Don't go to the north wing. It's already awake. William stared at the screen, fear spreading across his face. Grace, what does that mean? Grace whispered, eyes wide. It means we're not the only ones looking for that room. And whoever they were had already found it. For the first time in years, the mansion was silent. No guests, no gala, only footsteps echoing through marble halls that once held laughter. Grace, William, Daniel, and little Emma stood before the great painting of a sunrise in the north wing. Evelyn's voice still lingered in their minds. The wall behind the painting, with trembling hands, William lifted the frame. Behind it, hidden beneath layers of plaster, lay a small wooden door. He looked at Grace. After everything I've done, will you open it with me? She nodded. The door creaks open. Sunlight spills onto an old room filled with dust and warmth. Inside were boxes labeled Harbalite. But in the center sat something else, a wooden cradle, polished, preserved, with a single letter resting inside. Grace picked it up, her voice shaking as she read aloud. For the ones I love most. This house began as a home, not a fortress. Its walls were built for family, not pride. If you have found this, then truth has done its work. Harbalite wasn't about power, it was about hope. For every child who lost their way, let this place be a light to guide them home. Her voice broke. Evelyn's handwriting continued. Grace, thank you for keeping your promise. William, forgive yourself. Daniel, live free. And Emma, sing when the world forgets to. Soft music swells. Grace places the letter back in the cradle. William, tearful, I built everything except the one thing that mattered. Grace turned to him gently. Then build it now. Not an empire, a family. He looked down at Emma, then at Daniel, the young man who had once been his secret son in everything but name. Slowly, he reached out his hand. Stay, all of you. Help me make this right. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Grace smiled softly. Workers cleaning the estate, laughter returning, children running across the courtyard. The mansion transforms from cold marble to warm light. Weeks later, the Harrison Foundation reopened, not as Harbalite, but as the Sunrise Home, a refuge for children who needed a place to begin again. On the day of the opening, a gentle breeze swept through the hall. The chandelier chimed like music, and somewhere, faintly, Evelyn's lullaby seemed to play once more. William stood beside Grace on the balcony. Do you think she sees us? Grace smiled, looking toward the sunrise. She never stopped. The billionaire who once fired his maid had found something greater than fortune. He found forgiveness. He found family. And in the light of a new dawn, he finally found home. Morning sunlight spilled through the wide windows of what was once the Harrison estate. The cold marble halls that used to echo with silence were now filled with laughter, footsteps, and the soft hum of life. The Sunrise home had opened its doors to children with nowhere else to go, and every corner of the mansion now breathed warmth and purpose. Grace walked slowly down the hallway, a basket of fresh flowers in her arms. She passed the cradle they had found hidden behind the painting, the one Evelyn had left behind, and placed a single white lily inside. For a moment, she closed her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered behind her. William's familiar voice broke the quiet. "You still talk to her, don't you?" Grace turned and smiled faintly. "Every morning. I think she hears us." He nodded, his expression soft and thoughtful. "If not for you, Grace, I would have never heard her again." Through the tall glass doors, they could see Daniel outside, helping the children plant young trees in the garden. Emma ran beside him, her laughter carrying on the wind. It was the sound of healing. "You gave them a home," Grace said. William shook his head. "No, we did." He reached into his coat pocket and handed her something small and glinting in the sunlight. A gold locket, its surface engraved with the initials E.H. "I found this when we restored the East Wing," he said. "It's Evelyn's, but there's something inside for you." Grace opened the locket carefully. Inside were two tiny portraits, one of Evelyn and one of Grace herself, taken years ago. Beneath them, engraved in delicate handwriting, were the words, "For the women who kept my heart alive." Grace's eyes filled with tears. She always saw more in people than they saw in themselves. "So do you," William said quietly. They walked together into the garden, where the children had gathered in a circle around a freshly planted tree. At its base, a bronze plaque gleamed in the light. "The Sunrise Home, where every beginning finds its light." Daniel called out to them. "Ready." The children lifted their watering cans. 3, 2, 1. Water poured over the soil as the children cheered. The tree shimmered in the sunlight, droplets sparkling like new hope. "She'd love this," Grace said softly. William looked at the sky. "She does." For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the children run through the garden. The air smelled of rain and new beginnings. "Grace," William said finally, his voice low and honest, "after everything that's happened, do you think people can really change?" Grace looked at him, a gentle smile touching her lips. "They can," she said, "if they let love change them first." The morning light grew brighter. Birds sang from the rooftops, and the old mansion, once filled with pride and pain, stood alive again, a place of laughter and forgiveness. And as the sun rose higher over the Sunrise home, Grace felt something deep in her heart, a peace she had waited years to find. Because in every ending, there truly was a sunrise waiting to begin again. Sometimes life humbles us in ways we never expect. True worth isn't measured by wealth, power, or status, but by the kindness we show, the apologies we make, and the love we choose to give even after being hurt. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it opens the door to a better future. When pride falls away, hearts can finally heal. And in that healing, we discover that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning.